just a whole different topic. You made me think of it earlier while we were talking about Paramount. Did you see that Warner Brothers was talking about that they just literally gave Paramount as an example of a company that they want to buy? They're looking to invest and buy a big company. So Warner Brothers is considering buying Paramount.
Good Lord.
Truth.
Bad idea.
The rumor I heard last week was that, again, Warner Brothers would be very interested in, because one of the main reasons is Paramount basically is the other that has sort of the biggest studio in California other than Warner Brothers. They have the biggest backlot. So they basically, one way of doing it is they would basically monopolize studio space in California.
Interesting.
Also, obviously, there's the back catalogue of things, but the problem is Warner Brothers can't afford to buy Paramount. So the one question was, they were going to be sort of like a joint deal with Netflix, that Netflix buy Paramount Plus and have first dibs on a lot of the rights, and then they will pay for that. And basically then Warner Brothers were looking at buying just the studio of Paramount, and NBC would absorb a big chunk of the rest. There's also a rumor that Paramount are getting ready to sell, and one of the things they're getting ready to do is actually buy Alex Kurtzman out of Secret Hideout and rebrand Secret Hideout as Star Trek Studios, so that basically they can bring Star Trek back into the fold. Because the problem is Secret Hideout owns certain elements of the Star Trek franchise now. Okay. They own what they've produced, basically. So Paramount couldn't say if you cancelled the contract for Secret Hideout tomorrow, Paramount couldn't continue to make Strange New Worlds, because even though they own Star Trek, they don't own elements of Strange New Worlds. Secret Hideout does under the deal. It's not really own it, but it's like the sort of copyrighty thing. It's a bit complicated. The guy that did explain it to me, but to be honest,
they pulled a George Lucas.
Sorry, they pulled a George Lucas. Yeah. So that's the idea. Yeah. That Netflix would basically buy and absorb Paramount Plus, and they would basically do a deal with Warner Brothers. So Netflix would basically take over Max and take over Paramount Plus, and it would become one. It would all come under Netflix, because Max is doing quite badly as on the streaming platform in America. You'll have to explain this to me. There's a streaming platform, and then is it like a networky thing as well? Because there's like
HBO's still their cable network. They still have HBO on like cable network stuff, but Max is no longer HBO Max, but it's still what it was.
Mm-hmm. So the streaming would shift to Netflix. Paramount Plus would shift to Netflix. And but Warner Brothers would take over the studio. So Warner Brothers would continue to produce material for Netflix, but Netflix would own the thing. And that's apparently the only way Warner Brothers can finance it. And that's what they're looking at the moment. But this isn't going to happen anytime soon, because it's going to be a massively complicated deal. And Warner Brothers are going to have to massively refinance to do it, because they owe $50-60 billion already.
Oh, do you think that'll because that's almost a hub of different apps, like we were talking about with Amazon earlier. Does that kind of coerce Amazon into trying to toss an offer at Paramount? Would that maybe make Apple say, hey, maybe we want to toss an offer instead of their Disney talks, maybe? I don't know. If Apple and Paramount teamed up, that'd be kind of glorious, in my opinion. But
yeah, I mean, I'd love to see something like that. But we're going to have it. I think Apple will always survive, because financially they can. They could lose money in
trillions. No.
They got hundreds of billions in checking.
They're fine.
But they can always sort of be that quality over quantity. They're almost like a specialist.
Yeah.
Streaming service. The rest of them aren't. So I do think I was talking to a business analyst about this. Last year now, and he was saying that there is going to be a correction. There's too many of these apps now, and all these little companies are doing stream, like Lionsgate over in the UK have got their own streaming app, and they're taking the piss. It's just getting silly. They can't all have their own streaming app. There will be a collapse. And he actually said the first major one to go will be Paramount Plus. It's not worked. It hasn't worked, and it's cost an absolute fortune.
And Paramount, I mean, they banked a lot on Mission Impossible this year. Mission Impossible didn't make what it wanted to do, and they have a few different things that are just the things that they were banking on didn't bank. So it's not looking good.
Mission Impossible is another one of those things I just got off the bought from my library. I didn't go to the movies to see.
It's still damn good though. It's so
It was. I thought it was holy shit. This is good. Now I'm just so torqued up. I want to see part 2.
Well, they just changed it. It's no longer part 2. Thankfully, I think they changed it to it's no longer part 2. So now the next one's just going to be Mission Impossible 8, I think.
Yeah,
which is smart.
I apologize about his name. No, they haven't. So they have not bought Kurtzman out of his contract yet, but that is the conversation that's happening. He is going to do Magnificent Seven MGM though, but Alex Kurtzman is doing that. Is Alex Kurtzman, not Secret Hideout? So Secret Hideout are not producing. So, but Alex Kurtzman has done several projects over the last even a few years. The Secret Hideout's deal is basically to do Star Trek and then get first dibs on anything Secret Hideout does, but Alex Kurtzman can still work as a producer on other projects. So it's not happened yet, but I wouldn't give you good odds on that it'll happen in the next 6 months.
He just said it happened on Friday in a follow-up. I don't know if that's just like super recent or not.
You what, sorry?
I don't want to say his name, but he just said it happened on Friday. I don't know if that just is like super recent.
I missed it if it did.
Aye.
So I mean that is excellent. If that happened Friday, I'll look into it. But I knew it was planned. But if it's happened, great. But I know he's doing Magnificent Seven. But that's separate to Secret Hideout.
Since when is that a thing? That just piqued my interest as you started saying that. When do we get that? Is that just being made?
Yeah, apparently. Yeah, MGM. Yeah. So, but he's got. If you look at his IMDb, he's got several projects that have nothing to do with Secret Hideout on the go that he's producing. So for other providers, when they do Star Trek 4, which I think will happen at some point, that will be Alex Kurtzman with Secret. That will be Secret Hideout producing it. I think Kurtzman has been moving away from Secret Hideout for a while, to be honest. He's and Paramount consider a lot of the toxicity with Star Trek in the last 12 months, the last few years is aimed at Alex Kurtzman. Even with Picard doing well, people still bitch about Alex Kurtzman. So he'll Kurtzman it. You know, it's like what he did with Discovery Season 1 has left a bad taste in people's mouths. You know, it's like it was not good.
It was a bad way. It was a bad step. It was a very bad first step.
Yeah, and getting him out of it, and like I say, this idea of rebranding it as Star Trek Studios, sort of what it's almost like Lucas within Disney and sort of things that it'll be within the thing but separate slightly, and I actually think that was a really, really good idea if they do that.
I like it because that allows them, if they do want to leave that company at any point, or if another company wants to buy out Star Trek, particularly if they're just not working within those confines, whatever they end up doing, that can be done at that point. They can go in there and grab Star Trek without having all those strangleholds from different places. Yeah. That's just, I think, healthy for an IP.
Yeah, exactly. And simplifying all the contracts have got so confusing with Star Trek over the last few years. When CBS and Paramount separated, and then CBS owned the movie rights. Paramount owned the movie rights, but CBS owned the TV rights. And then that got convoluted when they then reabsorbed because all these contracts still sort of stood and it complicated it. So it's become really complicated. Then they allowed Secret Hideout to take on certain elements of the IP, and it's just so absorbing it in is the cheap. But at the end of the day, what Paramount are thinking is even if it costs them X amount of millions to buy Paramount, to buy out Secret Hideout, it absorbs Secret Hideout into Paramount, and Star Trek will be more valuable because of it. At the moment, it's probably their most valuable IP, and they don't own all of it, and that's a problem if you're then going to try and sell the studio. So if this happens, if you see Secret Hideout, or if it did happen Friday and I just missed it, sorry, if this does happen in the next few months, expect Paramount to be sold before the summer. Because I'm told that's when they have to restructure a load of their debt. And that's a problem for them because it's going to cost a fortune. So they've got about 10 billion worth of debt that they have to restructure. But they took that debt out when they were getting interest rates of like 1%, and now all of a sudden it's 5%. And 5% of $10 billion is a lot.
Yeah.
It's like $100 million or something in interest alone or something.
Mhm.
It's going to be a problem. So I think they're looking to sell because of that.